And then also really quickly, I want to look at our artboard. So we're able to change our artboard so that we don't see anything that's around it, and that's we're utilizing our clip to canvas. So if we select this icon here, you can turn on clip to canvas. So say we have, I'm going to make a few copies of this little flower and place it around our canvas. All right, so now that I've made some copies of this little element, you're able to see these off the edge of our canvas. Now what we want to do when we're working is we're going to be kind of keeping everything nice and clean and neat. So we'll be utilizing the clip to canvas to kind of look at our final tile as we build out our template. So to turn that on and off, we have this little, it looks like a windshield wiper icon. So you can tap that and you can either go directly into it and it'll say clip to canvas. And then you'll know it's turned on because it's darkened, and when it's lighter, it's turned off. So I'm going to turn it on, and then what happens is when I move these elements, they'll clip directly into the canvas, and you'll no longer be able to see them on the outside of the artboard here. And now I want to just go through really quickly for those of you who are more beginners and don't necessarily know all of the different tools and studios in Affinity Designer. So I'm going to get rid of some of these things and just keep 2 of the icons so that we can work with them later. First, let's get started with our tools. On the left-hand side, that black arrow is obviously our move tool. We can use it to move elements on our screen and to resize things by tapping on them and pulling on the corners. And then we can also rotate by using that little arm that is at the top of this. Below it is our node tool. Say you're working with a specific shape. So in this case, I have a specific heart that I've created in the center of this. If we use our node tool, we can get some additional options that allow us to adjust the shape of that and work with the actual nodes within the elements that we've created. So if I tap on this round flower head here with the node tool, you'll see I have, if we zoom in really close, there's a little red dot. What we can do is adjust how long or how short the little scallops are on this flower. So you can do that with a lot of the different shapes as well. So we'll look at the shape tool really quick and then use some of the shapes with the node tool. So if we go down towards the bottom of our left hand toolbar, we select, it looks like a rectangle, but if we tap on it, hold down, you get this pop up and you'll be able to access all of these different shapes. So for example, the way I made this shape was I utilized the cloud shape. And then what you can do is you create a cloud. If you hold your finger down, it'll create it in perfect proportion. And then I adjusted how many of the bubbles were on that cloud in the upper menu here. So you can either tap on it and manual adjust it, or you can tap where the number is and scroll right or scroll left to decrease the number. And if you scroll right, you can increase the number. So I added more of the bubbles. You could also adjust the inner radius, which is what we did with the node tool by adjusting how long or how short that dip is. Or we can just zoom in, tap on the node tool, and then adjust it from here. And then we can update the color. And that's pretty much how I made this little kind of like flower head here. And then if we tap on that rectangle again and we select the ellipse tool, you're able to create another circle, update the color, and then we can use some of the quick options again. There is a outline here on this circle, so say I don't want it, I can just swipe up and it'll remove it. Or if you have trouble with swiping, you can also just utilize the quick colors here. There's a white square with a blue line through it, and that will remove your outline. All right, so say I want to select all of this and I want them to all be grouped together. I can use those 3-finger swipe downs and then select group, and it'll allow me to group both that red flower and the white inner circle together so I can move it as one element. Or the next tool that you'll likely use is the pen tool. You'll notice that you can adjust the stroke of your outlines as well. Once you select the pen here in this little pop-up on the left hand side, or you can go into your right hand studio and select your stroke studio, which is right underneath your color studio, which is that circle with the color in it. And you can adjust the width of your stroke, you can adjust the type of stroke, you can adjust how your stroke joins and aligns, things like that. So I'm just going to update it so that it is a bigger stroke so you can see what I'm doing. And then with the pen tool, what you're doing is utilizing lines to create segments and things like Bezier curves. And then you're able to create shapes with it. And then you can go back to that node tool and adjust the nodes. So this is a really helpful tool for outlining. But if you find that you have difficulty using the pen tool, the next best option, and it's usually my go-to option, is the pencil tool. And what's nice is there are some updates with the pencil tool. You can automatically close your shapes using the options up here in the center of your menu. So you can adjust the color that your fill will be. You can select if you want your shape that you're creating to have a fill as you're drawing it, or if you want it to just be a stroke. You can select auto close, and what it'll do is auto close your shape. It'll automatically close that shape for me. I don't have to go back through and manually close it. And then what we can do is make sure that we have a color fill and no stroke. And you can create shapes using this pencil tool. And you could also outline and trace any like sketches that you may have created before and use that to basically draw over and create your vector shapes on top. So the pencil tool is a fantastic option, something that I use quite often. So now that I've created that shape, the next one I'm going to look at is our knife tool. See, you added too many round points to the shape and you want to create it so that it's just these three bubbles here. So you could select that knife tool and cut across and it'll create a section. So what you can do is then select that actual like knob and then delete it, and then you'll just have your three pieces here. So I like the knife tool a lot to kind of help to refine and edit shapes that I've been building or creating with the pencil tool or even with the shape tool itself. There's also the vector flood fill, where you can basically, if you have an enclosed shape, you can update the color by selecting that and tapping. So say you have we have it red now, I want to use this blue, I'll select my vector flood fill and I'll tap that and it will update the color for me so that it is the updated version of the color options that I've selected. It's really helpful for filling your colors really quickly. If you like to kind of like outline and then add in color, this is a really helpful tool. There is also the gradient fill tool, and with this tool, which is right underneath it, it looks like a gradient with like a rod through it at an angle. This tool we will use when we're testing our patterns. You can apply a bitmap fill. So if we select gradient fill, you can see in the upper menu here, there are some additional options. So right now, currently it says solid, but if we tap on that, so you can change it from radial to conical, but you can also select bitmap. And what bitmap does is allows you to add a fill that will be in repeat using an image. So in our case, our tiles that we're going to create in the future. So we can select place from files. I'm going to go into my Affinity files here, and then I'm just going to select print that I've already created just so that we can test this. And once we put it in, you'll see it's kind of large because I made this specific file a larger repeat, but you'll have these little rods and you can adjust the scale by pulling them in and then also rotate it, and you can fill your shapes with your patterns. And then underneath that, the next tool that I want us to look at, and we've kind of like tapped into this already, is our shape tool. So there's different shapes that you can utilize. They have a whole bunch of already like pre-made shapes that you can use: segments, pies, donuts, arrows, things like that. What I'm going to do is utilize this donut shape. I'm going to change my fill from the pattern to just a basic color that's easy to see. And what I want to use really quick, and what I want to look at really quick, is our geometry functions, which are really, really helpful. So I'm going to add another shape as well so that we can combine these shapes. So I'm going to select arrow. And also you see you're able to adjust your options as well in terms of how wide or how thin your arrow will, like your shape will be. I want to make sure I don't have a stroke, so I'm going to select my stroke and then I'm going to swipe up to remove the stroke outline, and then I'm going to create my arrow. And then again, like I said, you can adjust the width and whatnot of your stroke and your outline here. I'm just going to remove it. You can also see, if we zoom in, the red dots, which allows us to adjust the angles of each of these arrows and the placement. So what I'm going to do though is adjust this arrow so that I only have one side. And you'll be able to edit those options here in the upper part of your main menu. So one side will be, you'll see there's arrow, arrow. That means there's an arrow on each end. So I'm going to tap on the left side and I'm going to select none. And that way I'll have just like a straight arrow. And then you can adjust your thickness up here as well by either tapping on it and manually entering your percentage, or just dragging right or left and it'll adjust the thickness of your arrow. So now what I want to do is rotate this out a bit, and then I'm going to select my move tool and I want to connect these to make a new shape. All right, so to do that, I mean, it looks like it's connected, but it's still very much two separate pieces that I can move. So what I'm going to do is use our geometry, our Boolean functions here. I'm going to select both of these shapes by selecting my black arrow tool and then dragging across both of them. And what I want to do is combine them. So our geometry functions, this is another kind of like difference in terms of Affinity 1 versus Affinity 2. They used to be in our edit menu here, our 3-dot menu. But now if you look in this like center main menu, you'll find them right next to like our rotate, align, and our arrange option. So I'm going to tap on my 3-dot menu to pull it back in. And if we look up here in the center, you'll be able to see something that looks like a square and a circle with a plus in it. If we tap on that, that will give us our geometry functions. We can add, subtract, intersect, and we have some other options as well here, like merging our curves and separate curves. So I'm going to select add, and it will basically add these two shapes together to create a new shape. And then you'll see it's all one shape. If we select our nodes, we can go through and revise and edit because it's all one shape and it's been combined together. We can also just select undo by double tapping with our 2 fingers. And if we went into our geometry options again, selected something like subtract, it would subtract that top shape from the bottom shape. So it goes based on placement of the layers. So I'm just going to tap the screen with 2 fingers to undo, and it'll undo my subtraction. So this is really helpful as well as you're working on creating your different elements within your artwork. The last tool I want to look at really quick is our color picker. So if we select color picker and say we have a shape selected and we wanted to update that shape based on something that's like in a picture or somewhere else on your artboard, we can select color picker and then we can tap on anywhere in the new image and it'll update the color for us here. So color picker is a really helpful tool as well.